Hello guys and welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm here with Lupin the third part 6 episode number 10 reaction. Okay, so the previous episode we got a story about a pirate called Zeke and a treasure hunter called Cherry, and how Cherry wanted to get her hands on, it looked as if, get her hands on Zeke's treasure. It looked as if that was the case, but obviously later on we get to know that Cherry was actually the sister of Zeke's lover, called whose name was Sakura, and she just wanted to go and find out the place where Zeke buried the treasure. And obviously the treasure was there, which at that point they thought that it was like a black diamond or something. But the main treasure for Cherry was to, like, kind of reunite the both Kokeshi doll, and at the same time to go and see the cashew nut tree which bloomed every 75 years. So Fujiko was also there, Rupan was also there, and in the end they figure out that the black diamond wasn't actually a diamond, it was actually supposed to be pepper. Back in those days pepper was as like a rare commodity, and it was as expensive as diamond, so they called it black diamond. And obviously in nowadays, pepper isn't really that much costly, so Fujiko was kind of disappointed, but by the end she was like, you know what, I am not disappointed because I did get to see the cashew nut tree and, the blooming of flowers that happens every 75 years. So yeah, it kind of ended in a nice note. And yeah, it was a good episode. Let's see what we get in this episode. This is episode number 10. Let us begin. I'll be putting the subtitles and the timer here, sync it to whichever is your preference, and let's get started. Right, so here's the countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. Hmm. My god. Hmm. Darwin's bird. Okay. Birds. What? Is that Fujiko? Who is that? Looks like her. Alright, wait, is this a museum? What is this place? Oh, it's a museum related to Darwin? Oh, okay, actual English, not English. Is that Fujiko? What the? So very. Okay, a lot of things are happening at the same time. What's going on? Oh, that's Rupan. Up, that's Fujiko. Bird. Alright. Darwin's bird. Hmm. What between genuine and hmm. Mihail. That's a huh. Oh, is it like Dar? Yep, Charles Darwin's. Just print out the substantive terms. Some ancient bedrock. Okay. Whoa. All right. Hmm. Faith and evidence. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Built down bird. Wow. Okay. That good. Okay. That's good. Oh. Okay. Huh. Wow. And will also purchase one. Will have to sum of money. Oh. Oh. Wait, what? No. Okay. Oh. Hmm. I guess that is true. Was it's kept within a storage form. Okay. My lord. Yeah. All right. I feel like I need to go back to this part later on in the discussion section and read this part properly. Half of the things went over my head. Yeah, exactly. That's the question. Hmm. What? Oh, maybe are they like was why did she sign? Oh. Hmm. Well, we know that. Oh my god. Well, he just left. Okay. Yeah. Like I can understand. I can understand if this was. Yeah, Fujiko. Well, all right. I can understand if the that guy wants the original one. Maybe if he's a collector or something, I can understand. However, I don't know. I don't think that's the case. There must be something else. Hmm. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. So that was a fake name and an identity, I guess. Maybe he's wearing a mask or something. Hmm. Okay. Take it. Then what? Okay, this is weird. Yeah, like took her somewhere else or something. No, she drank the coffee or whatever. Oh boy. Yeah, like I can agree with like Rupan's theory of spiking her and like taking her somewhere else, tricking her into thinking that she's somewhere else. Okay. Hmm. Okay. No one's looking at the cameras. Dudes, look at the camera. So did she hack? Oh, she hacked it, I think. What? What are? Okay, what's happening here? Um. Yeah, this is not normal. What's going on here? Okay. What the Wait, what the? Yeah. What? Yeah, like when? Okay, something weird is going on here. Okay, what's happening here? It's different than the origin of the. What? Original of the one in display. There's another one then? Wait, what? Venus, okay. East. Yeah. Oh my god, is that the original one? What the? Which fell from them? Okay. Was she really spiked by something when she drank the coffee? What's going on here? What is okay? I don't understand what's going on. Egregious. Oh, Mika. Oh, it took me so freaking long to understand what. Oh my god. What the hell? So he's the archangel. Oh my god. No, what's happened? Okay, this is such a weird episode. Oh my god. Wow. Good god. All right. It took me so long to understand what's going on. Like, I still don't understand what went on over there, but still, at least by the end, I was able to understand what they were implying. So, oh god, so this was literally a job from heaven or something like that. Like, and that's why he was calling my lord. Like, nobody calls like if it's your employer or someone like that, like unless and until you're like a butler or like a like a king and you're his subject, you don't call your employer a lord. Like he was calling him a lord. You're my lord or something like that he was saying, which in itself I was kind of like, why is he calling his employer my lord? Like, my master I can understand, but my lord. And now it makes sense why he was calling my lord. Like when Fuji in the end, like I should have understood what they're implying a little bit before that when they were bringing up Lucifer and everything, but I still didn't understand what's going on. And then when in the end, Fujiko said like, "Oh, Mikael," that's when it struck. I'm like, "Oh, this is Mikael or like Michael, however you pronounce." Okay, that's it. So wow, all right. Wait, so Rupan wasn't really involved in this at all, I'm guessing. Like, we did get to see Rupan keeping an eye on them, and he kind of smiled, but that was it. The next Rupan that we saw somehow got switched in between. You know what? I don't think this episodes make sense at all because it was basically this type of an episode. Like, it was an episode which shouldn't make sense, because there's a lot of things that actually doesn't make sense. For example, Lupin joins Fujiko in going in the museum and getting his hands on the thing. However, somewhere down the line, he somehow gets switched with Mikhail, and this doesn't make sense. However, the fact that this was all like a prophetic dream or something in the end, it kind of implied that, was also something that, I don't know, it's also something that I'm not exactly sure if that's what they were implying, because the whole thing happened, and later on we get to see Fujiko standing there, like dreaming of all of this, and this was like a prophetic dream or something, like she saw, and the next time she declined the offer because she was like, yeah, this is too much for me. I cannot really handle this. So, you know what? I'm going to go to the wiki for this episode at least. First, let me go to the wiki because I think I understood what has happened. However, I need a little bit better explanation as to few of the other things that I probably wasn't able to understand, or it went over my head, because this is related to angels, archangels, and so I think a few of those things I probably have missed because I don't really have that much knowledge about these type of topics. So I'm going to go to the wiki page, Lupin 6 episode 10. So, all right, okay, let me see. So, all right, here we go. Episode 10, officials. Okay, this synopsis is very short. Let me just read it. It's short synopsis. The bird is beautiful once it flies authentically. That was the client told Fujiko. The target is the Archaeopteryx fossil that lies in a natural history museum. The fossil that faithfully expresses the evolutionary process of living things had iwaku that sways its true value. The more you listen, the more you wonder in an indescribable what? Lupin, who asked by Fujiko to cooperate also. Okay, what the hell? This makes no sense. Alright, one of the few episodes of Lupin that deals with truly supernatural elements, in the case Archangel Michael and Fallen Angel Lucifer. There you go. Plot of the episode resembles Mamoru Oshii's suggested ideas for what would become the legend of the Gold of Babylon. In one of these ideas, an architect had built the Tower of Babel in the heart of Tokyo before killing himself upon completion. With Lupin's goal being to steal a fossil of the angel, the same idea was later used in Oshii's Battle about the movie. Okay, in the preview episode. Alright, so this doesn't really explain it properly. Like, you know what, let me check if there's any other website. Lupin 6 episode 10 explained. Alright, Alright, you know what? Let me just go through the episode on my own first. I'm not really finding any proper explanation of this on the internet. A lot of people are discussing about it, but I don't think it'll help reading about that. Alright, let me just go back like little by little, and let's see if I can understand it the second time I kind of look at it. So it's called the Darwin's Bird. Now, alright, you know what? The first thing that I need to do is, I know Charles Darwin's theory, but I always forget it. So let me just check it once again. Charles Darwin theory, because I think this is one thing that I need to properly understand before going into the episode. Charles Darwin's theory of evolution had three main components. The variation occurred randomly among members of the species, that an individual's traits could be inherited by its progeny, and that the struggle for existence would allow only those with favorable traits to survive. Alright, so that was Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Okay, focuses on the elimination of the inferior species gradually over time through the process called natural selection. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I remember it now. So that is Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory, and this episode is called Darwin's Bird. So at the beginning, we get to see that Fujiko is in a museum, in the British Museum, and in the bird section. And she's looking at a fossil. I think they called it the British sample or something like that, I think. She looked at it, she leaves, and like all these things that happen here later on happen as well. Like it seemed as if this was like a prophetic dream she had by the end of it. But either way, she's then looking at like the big, structure, the bone, and the statue of, I'm guessing that's Charles Darwin. And there's like someone who's like, oh sorry, it's time. And she's like, okay. She looks back, goes back, looks at the camera, CCTV camera, comes out, sees the white car waiting for her, gets in. And here, like from the beginning, I was very weirded out by this guy. The way he was like, just had like this very cold look in his eyes, and a very unnerving smile he had, which kind of makes sense now because like they were trying to make it more, I guess you could say, mystical, or like something like that. Like they made him uncanny deliberately, because in the end we figure out that he's actually Archangel Michael. And I do wonder how did Fujiko come in contact with this guy. I'm so confused, because it looks like when Fujiko later on goes to his place and asks him, oh, what is your name? She didn't even know his name. So that means she met him very recently. How did they meet? And why did she even take the job in the first place? And then like later on, obviously after getting that dream, rejected it again. Okay, this part is another weird thing happens. There's this one guy who's like snapping pictures. It was definitely Lupin, because the way he smiled. Now, that was it. That was it about Lupin. The next Lupin that we get to see was also Lupin, I'm guessing, but it was also part of the dream. So I don't know which is real, which is a dream. Like everything's so weird here. So we can see Fujiko, and this guy is just sitting down, and he says like, oh, what do you think of the British National History Museum? Don't recall, I'm talking about that bird. Alright. Alright, so she looks at him, and he takes her to his mansion. Okay, so Fujiko says Darwin's bird, and he says scholars are such crass people, the name Archaeopteryx is unbecoming. A precious treasure like that. Wait, what does Archaeopteryx mean? Is that like a... Wait a minute. Archaeopteryx. Oh, this is an actual thing. Okay. Iconic fossil often thought as the missing link between dinosaur and birds. Oh, I was wondering. Okay, this makes so much more sense now. That's why he was saying it is the void between the, like something like that. He kind of said. I was like, what is he trying to say? Okay, so this is, and that, okay, it makes sense. Darwin's like theory of evolution, and so like this is the missing link between dinosaur and birds, and how it evolved from a dinosaur, like Archaeopteryx, like from the the dinosaur like birds to an actual bird. Okay, it was first described in 1861 by the German paleontologist Hermann von Meyer. Since then, Archaeopteryx has been the focus of controversy surrounding origin of birds and the links with dinosaur. Interesting. The winged creature was the first to show an evolutionary link between birds and reptiles. Oh, wow. Alright, so okay, a lot of things makes more sense now that I read that part. Okay. And he says like a precious treasure like that deserves much better. Now, okay, I'm kind of understanding a few things. You can see here, he's kind of angry about the fact that people call this Archaeopteryx, and he says like, oh, a precious treasure like this deserves much better, which kind of shows that, like this is like us humans has named it Archaeopteryx. But this episode kind of shows that Archaeopteryx has a lot of other things going on. It was, I guess I'm going to go to the ending part and read that part again and probably understand it a little bit more. It has some link with Lucifer. And that is why he's probably angry here, and he says that, oh, like, precious treasure like that deserves much better. than the name Archaeopteryx. And okay, it kind of makes sense why he's angry here, because us humans have named it that, but according to him, this is something different. The original Archaeopteryx is something way different than we think it is. Okay, things are making sense now, little by little. I can understand it. Okay, so Fujiko says, is it true the birds flying through the sky are quite beautiful? Except this bird is one that remained asleep within its stone cage for eons, which is why. And it's me, like I'm understanding it now that I've seen the ending part of this episode. At first, when he was talking about all of this, it was going over my head. I'm like, what is he talking about? What bird was inside a cage? What is he talking about? It makes sense now that I've seen the ending. Like, why was he talking in this cryptic manner and what he was trying to say? It excludes something more than just beauty, I agree, Fujiko says. And alright, so he says what makes that bird so gorgeous is that it flies right through the void between genuine and fake. This line was, I was like, what is he trying to say? And so it flies between the void of genuine and fake. Okay. Huh. And Fujiko's like, I'm sure I don't follow. And I don't think he elaborates. Yeah, he doesn't elaborate. And she's like, what is your name? And he says, apologies, I am, thinks a little bit. And he's like, you can call me Mihail for now. Now, you know what? I genuinely didn't connect the dots here. In no way did I realize that he was actually the Mihail or Michael or Mikhail, like, which however you pronounce his name. So, like, in no way did I like up until the end did I even connect the dots that this is actually like a archangel. Okay. And he says, if you prefer, you can call me Michelle or Michael. Oh, Fujiko actually says this. I should have connected the dots here, at least a little bit. She says, oh, I guess Mikhail also would be okay, which is obviously, Mikhail, Archangel Mikhail. And he kind of smiles. Like, this is the thing. How can we even connect, like, Archangel Mikhail with, like, someone who's asking for to steal, like, a fossil from British Museum? Like, how does this even connect? Like, in no way are you connecting these two. So it didn't really strike me at all. Like, if this was like a episode related to something like that, like, I might have connected the dots. But in no way was I connecting the dots where we're literally going to a museum to steal a fossil with Archangel Mikhail. Like, in no way is anyone connecting that dot. Okay, he says it was back in 1861. Okay, I'm going to read this part completely because half of the things went over my head here. I was like, I didn't speak at the first part of this episode because I was trying to understand what he was saying. I was understanding what he was saying at the same time I was not understanding what he was saying. Like, it was such a weird experience. I'm like, okay, his words make sense, but I'm not actually properly able to put everything together. But what is he even trying to say here? Okay, it was back in 1861 at a quarry in southern Bavaria where the bird showed itself to man. However, 2 years prior to that, a certain scientific theory was published that would promptly shock the world. You mean, yeah, Charles Darwin on the origin of species. So the one where, like, as you go further, like, the ones who, like, are inferior, they'll get, like, they'll not exist. And, yeah, that type of thing. Okay. The very first printing of it was released in London 1859. Soon after, not even after full 2 years, the real example that substantiated Darwin's theory of evolution. Wait, just a minute. What's that substantiated mean? Substantiated. Provide evidence to support. Okay, alright. I actually thought it meant the opposite. So I was, okay, no, so it proved it. Alright. It was excavated from some ancient bedrock. almost as if it had been waiting. So it makes sense, like the whole Archaeopteryx, as I read, it is like the missing link between dinosaurs and birds. And Charles, like Darwin's theory of evolution says how, like the progeny is like, it has characteristics of the ancestors, and as we go further down, like features that are not really useful will get, like will little by little go extinct, and only things that will be able to adapt to the newer world will be able to survive, like survival of the fittest basically. So it makes sense why he said that this fossil proved the point that Charles Darwin tried to portray. So, and it happened literally 2 years after the theory was published. So, okay. Fujiko says, so you think the timing was too good to be a coincidence? And he smiles. Do you have any interest in archaeology or paleontology? And he says, I guess. And it seems that there has always been too many coincidences in the academic realm. You mean fakes passed off as coincidence? When scholars of that time struggled with concrete proof, they would push through with faith instead of evidence, proving something that contends with the infinite nature of time. Proving something that contends with the infinite nature of time. Okay. Is rather difficult given the short length of the human lifespan. Interesting. Now that he's saying this, I'm actually understanding. Since it's implied he's Archangel Michael, it makes sense why he's commenting on the human lifespan. Because, it is true, human lifespan is a little bit short compared to, like, these type of, like angels, archangels, like comparing to them, obviously we are very short-lived. And Fujiko says many science history institutions struggle with scandals regarding hoaxes and forgeries even now. This discovery of fossils themselves is in a way a result of mere coincidence. Thus, in order to make them all inevitability, they merely presented the world with a conclusion before the evidence. Conclusion before the evidence. Conclusion being Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, the evidence being the Archaeopteryx, I'm guessing. Just like the skull of Piltdown Man. Okay, what is the Piltdown Man? Piltdown Man. The Piltdown Man is a paleoanthropological fraud in which bone fragments were presented as the fossilized remains of previously unknown early human. Presented as fossilized remains. Bone fragments were... Oh wait, Charles Dawson. Is this someone else? Yeah. So it's written here Charles Dawson. In 1912, Charles Dawson, an amateur archaeologist, claimed to have discovered the missing link between ape and a man. He had found part of a human-like skull in Plinostine gravel beds near Piltdown village in Sussex, England. Dawson wrote to Arthur Smith Woodland, keeper of geology of the Natural History Museum at the time, about his find. Okay, and later on it was found that it was fake, I'm guessing. Okay, the conclusion: Piltdown Man was an audacious fake and a sophisticated scientific fraud. Alright, so there you go. Okay, I understand why they're bringing up Piltdown Man here. Okay, so, or even the so-called Archaeoraptor, the other primitive bird that was dug up in China. Okay, what is that? There's so many things that Archaeoraptor. So Archaeopteryx and the Archaeoraptor are different. Archaeoraptor, informal generic name of fossil chimera from China, in article published in National Geographic Museum. Alright. Archaeoraptor was soon dubbed the Piltdown bird and the Piltdown chicken by the press in reference to the biggest fossil hoax of the time. Archaeoraptor was revealed to be forgery in which bones of primitive bird and non-flying dromosaurid dinosaur have been combined. There you go. So, okay, I understand. And he says like, oh, that reminds me of some called that one, the Piltdown bird, and he's kind of smiling, laughing about it. Okay, so there's a sedimentary deposit in Germany known as Solnhofen limestone that dates back to the Jurassic period. A large number of world's most complete fossils have been unearthed at that location. From the period 1860 to 1877, there were 3 fossils discovered at the excavation site that included feathers. Alright, 3 fossils discovered at the excavation site that included feathers. In 1860, they found a solitary feather. In 1861, they found the bird that we're currently discussing, known as the London specimen. And the last one, in 1877, an even more complete bird fossil was unearthed, which now sits at the British Museum in Berlin. Wait, what? British Museum in Berlin? Wait, what? Just a minute. No. Why am I reading it Brit? Wait a minute. This at a museum in Berlin. Why was I okay? My head is going wrong. The Berlin specimen, and that was the British specimen. Okay. Wait a minute. I'm getting confused here. What's the London specimen then? 1861, they found the bird that we are currently discussing, known as the London specimen. All right, and the last one. In 1877, an even more complete bird fossil was unearthed, which now sits at a museum in Berlin. Okay, the one called Berlin specimen. Okay, so the British one, the London specimen, is the one came before this, and this one's the Berlin specimen, which is a more complete version. Okay, for some reason, the period onward, no other fossils that include what will clearly be identified as feather have been discovered there. Though Darwin's bird fit within the process of evolution, it somehow remains alone even now. Alright. Circumstantial evidence makes it seem fishy, but none of that proves for a fact that it wasn't merely coincidence. Then maybe this will convince you. And the work done to excavate these 3 particular specimens were all done by the same crew of people. Not to mention forging fossils at the behest of rich connoisseurs and museums goes back to the 18th century. And apparently a guild of such forgers have been established within that very region. This is where we come to an individual who deserves utmost scrutiny. Karl Heberlein, medical officer in charge of aforementioned excavation site. When treating the crew, he would frequently receive specimens that had unearthed in lieu of money. Okay, the collection that he amassed as a result was most impressive, but one stood out: the London specimen. Okay, the price it was sold at cost more than 2 years worth of British National History Museum's annual purchasing budget. 2 years worth. Okay, so National Museum had no choice but to pay in installments. Okay, so just hearing that is enough to imagine exactly how kind of person he was. Okay, sometime later, the Berlin specimen was also purchased for an equally hefty sum of money, and the individual who sold that one to a museum was again him. No, wait. Oh god, I'm getting so confused. Carl, just a minute. What was the other guy's name? Just a minute. Oh, that was Carl, and this one is... Wait, so London specimen was sold by Carl, and Berlin specimen was sold by his son. Just a minute, what was his name? Ernst Haberlein, Carl's son. Okay. Now it's gone from fishy to downright devious. Alright. Okay. Hard to believe such a beautiful bird is so grossly tainted by money. It's a tad disheartening, wouldn't you say? Alright, so... Okay, so here he comes up with his proposal, I think. Where's the part where he says what to do? Okay, the authenticity of the fossil is not of any concern, even if it turns out to be completely a fake. There's something uncanny about the fossil that makes it beautiful. You've said so yourself. It's a grand delusion given physical form through the craftsmanship and a billion years of time. Grand delusion given physical form through craftsmanship and a billion years of time. The one kept on display is merely a replica. The real fossil is kept in a storage vault. Please use your skills to infiltrate the museum and steal it. And here we go. Here he says that this is what my lord would like you to do. Alright. And she's like, what lord? I'm merely here as a representative on behalf of the lord whom I serve. Why do they want it? There's no one on earth who can comprehend the will of my lord. Now, when he said no one on earth, I was a little bit like, I'm like, what? Why is it telling like no one on earth? It's like a weird way to say that. But I didn't expect this is how this was going to go. And okay, so there you go. I read this part and okay, I kind of understand what happened here. So he just wants the fossil, the original one, not the fake one. So after that we get to see Lupin, and I'm pretty sure that this Lupin here is the original Lupin. Yeah, the same one who was snapping pictures. We see he has the iPad or whatever, and inside you can see like the picture of the car and everything, and he's like looking at it. And here Lupin asks an important question, like why would he even want that? His lord or whatever would even want that? Like you cannot really sell it. It's just like what's the point in stealing something like that? Like obviously Fujiko doesn't know what's like happening, and she's like, yeah, like he didn't really give an explanation. And Lupin says, how much is the money that they're giving? Like like we're actually breaking into the British Museum, so it should be something big, shouldn't it? Now I don't know what the hell Fujiko sign language, like in sign language, told him here. Like what was that? Yeah, I don't understand this part. What was she doing here? Was she like, she does this what, like how much, 10 million yen or something like that? I don't understand that. And he's like, it's not pounds or euros, is it? Of course not. Okay, anyways, like in a nutshell, it's a huge sum of money, obviously. Now here we suddenly see that Jigen doesn't want to be in a part of this because he doesn't know who the employer is, and he doesn't like that. There's no pride in it. There's no, like, when you don't even know the employer, he doesn't really like it. So Lupin does say that, but we are going to try to find out the original employer, who he is. That's another part of the work that we're going to do. Fujiko's going to go break in and grab the fossil. I'm going to find out the employee, who the person behind this is. But Jigen is still not happy. Jigen is like, no, like this is bad news. And I love how what's his name, Lupin kind of says, I dig being motivated by beauty, if you know what I mean. And Jigen's like, you dumbass, and just leaves. Either way, Fujiko is like, yeah, Fujiko's like, not Fujiko, sorry, Lupin is like half-half, isn't it? And Fujiko's like, oh, you said you're moved by beauty, so why not do it for me? And he's like, nope, I'm actually risking my life here. Like, those type of reasons won't really settle with me if I'm actually like risking my life here. So I actually need something materialistic in this situation to keep me going. But either way, their main mission here is to not go for the replica, but for the one that is actually in the storage vault inside. So, alright, we get to see that Fujiko in disguise comes in, and she goes into the locker room and grabs the the dress, the dress that she was wearing, and yeah, starts going in through the vent. So here we get to see Lupin, a little flashback where Lupin and Fujiko was talking, and Lupin says like the whole thing is very weird. I tried to find out who this person is, but oh wait, just a minute. Oh, I understand what happened here. I was so confused. I was like, why did Lupin suddenly change here? No, Fujiko came here alone in the museum. I thought she came with Lupin. No, she came here alone. That first part was a completely different section where she met Lupin and just had the conversation and made the plan. And Lupin went on to find out more about the employer. And like in a weird way, they kind of showed it. And we kind of skipped, like we didn't get to see that part, and we directly skipped to Fujiko going inside the museum. So then here in a flashback we get to see what Lupin found out. So Lupin wasn't here in the museum with Fujiko, like here at this moment. Fujiko was here alone, while Lupin was not here. The flashback that we were seeing was something that happened before. That happened before Fujiko came. Okay, it makes more sense now. I understand what happened. So in the flashback we get to see Lupin says that, oh, I tried to dig up more info, but the guy was just a representative, and like he's like, we cannot really find much about this person. And Fujiko's like, we know that person's face, and he's like, yeah, like still we cannot really find anything out. And he also says the surprising thing is the mansion where you went actually is an empty mansion. There's no one lives there, no one has bought it, and it's filled with dust. It's crazy. Like it's not a place where you can sit down, have tea, and just and he shows the pictures that he probably snapped to Fujiko, and Fujiko is flabbergasted. She's like, wait, what the hell is this? In the pictures she sees there's like a couch, like chairs and tables all filled with cobwebs, and the place is dusty as hell. And it doesn't look this at all anything like where she went, sat down and had tea with Mikhail. And there's like a lot of bird stuffings and everything. None of that is there. So Lupin says here, like, you sure they didn't spike your drink? Now here I was thinking, oh, maybe that's what they did, because like maybe, like in my head what I was thinking, like, oh, maybe they took her to some place, sat her down there and spiked her drink. She was drinking it and probably she passed out, then took her to some other place. Oh, no, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, something like that. I thought they actually changed her location by spiking her so that she didn't understand where she was. Something like that. I also kind of thought at that moment, because this is the thing. This is really the first episode where we get to see supernatural elements in Lupin. I'm the first thing that I just, like when I sit down and start watching a Lupin episode, I always try to find everything through logic, because they have never done this before. Never have they introduced any type of supernatural elements. Everything has a reason and a answer to it, like a scientific explanation to it. So I'm trying to find out an explanation here, a scientific explanation. That's why in no way did I think like maybe this is supernatural element has something to do with it. I was trying to find logic in this. But either way, Fujiko is like just surprised, and Lupin says like there's nothing over there, no records, nothing, no immigration records as well. So it is weird. And he does say that Fujiko, if you want to get out of this, it's now or never. But Fujiko, this is Fujiko we're talking about. She's like, nope, I need to get to the bottom of this. She goes inside the what's that called? The security room or whatever, like the place where the computers are. Starts hacking the CCTV cameras, and now this part I can kind of understand. Like she starts looping the CCTV camera, footage. I can understand that. The part that weirded me out is not only the CCTV camera footage is looped, but the people who were drinking the coffee and everything, the original people, they also started looping. They were like putting the coffee cup in their mouth, putting it down again, doing the same, all that. Like that's what they were doing. There's this one dude in the vending machine getting something from the vending machine, comes back again and does the same thing again. The clock, it starts ticking, going back again. What was that about? That was in the CCTV camera, the footage of the camera. That was something completely different. So that's another weird part of this episode, like, you know what, Lupin 6 episode, and I think in the forums discussion, alright, there is a little article here. I'm going to read that, but later. Let me just talk about the episode first. After that, Fujiko gets in and inside the warehouse, and she suddenly sees that Lupin is beside her. Now, this part I was a little bit confused. Like I said, I thought that part and this part is connected. Like just after that, both Lupin and Fujiko came here together. I thought, because that flashback, I didn't realize that was a flashback. So I was like, oh, what's Lupin doing here? But I wasn't really that weirded out because I thought Lupin actually came here together with Fujiko. But no, he wasn't supposed to be here, and that's why Fujiko was so surprised. She was like, "What the hell are you doing here, Lupin?" And she's like, "How did you even get here?" And Lupin is like, "Oh, I just followed you the whole way." And she's like, "Oh, you are good at that, aren't you?" But here, like it does start feeling a little bit weird because I was also like, okay, Lupin is acting a little bit more weirder than he usually is. And here's another thing that Archangel, this is Mikhail, obviously. Archangel Mikhail says that I will always be your guardian angel, Fujiko. Another hint as to his original identity. And yeah, so then they go in, start searching the Archaeopteryx, and another weird thing happens here where Fujiko finds out. Mikhail says it's on the east side, and Fujiko's like, "What, east side?" And she looks at the thing and she's like, "Archaeopteryx north." And she's like, "Oh, that was a swing and a miss. It's in the north, not the east." And Fujiko's Lupin or Mikhail is just looking at the thing, not really saying anything. Again, like it was very weird. Now they go to the north side, Archaeopteryx, yep, opens it. Fujiko hacks it and opens it, goes in, and there you go. There's the Archaeopteryx, those like the original ones as they thought. Fujiko's like, "Oh, this is it." And Mikhail is like, "Nope, that is not it. He asked you to steal the real deal, remember? That's not it." Now, you remember Lupin said, not Lupin, Mikhail said that towards the east, you can see he's walking towards the east wall and standing there. And Fujiko's like, "Wait, if this isn't the original, then what is?" Looks at Lupin, and Lupin is like, "That's definitely the original of the fossil on display." So yes, he wants the original, not the original of the fossil on display, but the original one. But this isn't the real one. And there's a little button on the east side of the wall. Fujiko goes there, and it has the symbol of Venus over there. You know, the female symbol that we use? That's the symbol of Venus. And the astrological symbol for the planet Venus. The morning star that's been shining in the eastern sky just before sunrise. Venus, the Roman goddess, and he's laughing. The real Venus wasn't a goddess of beauty. It makes sense why he's talking like this, because he's like, haha, the real Venus wasn't the goddess of beauty. Okay, so presses the button, the thing goes up, and they go in. Fujiko, now here everything goes weird from here onwards. Fujiko shines her light on the fossil, and here in comes Mihail, and he's like, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning?" So that was Lucifer. And okay, Fujiko says the morning star, Venus. What my Lord desires is simple: to recover that which fell from heaven to earth. You know, Lucifer falling from heaven to earth. after incurring his indignation. Wow. And that's what he wanted. And Fujiko's like Lucifer and looks at the fossil. It's a fossil, and we're back again to Fujiko in front of the British Museum. Now here, she's looking at the thing, and everything happens the similar way. She goes back, comes to the original museum, looks at the Charles Darwin statue, and the same lady is like, "Oh, it's time," and she goes back, comes outside the museum. The car is waiting there just like before. She gets in, and Mikhail is waiting there, and Fujiko then says that, "Okay, I don't see Lupin over here. Standing there snapping pictures. Lupin is not here." Now Mikhail says that, "Have you considered the request?" And Fujiko's like, "I'm afraid I have to decline." And Mikhail is like, "What?" He's actually surprised here. And she says, "As for sacrilegious thief such as myself, taking a job from God is too heavy. I hope you won't take it personally, Mikhail." And did I get the pronunciation right? And he starts smiling and then starts laughing. And Fujiko comes out, and yeah, she starts walking, and then we get to see a shadow at the back, like someone flying, like a shadow of a wing. I think that's what we see. Just a minute. Yep, white wings flying, and that's where it ended. So okay, now I'm going to read this. There's a little article I can see here. I'm going to just read this and see what this says. There have been plenty of wild one-offs in Lupin's history, but even by the standards of those and Mamoru Oshii's, this one's pretty weird, right? While episode 10 is already a successful entry on a structural level, being an intriguing story of suspense that keeps us guessing right up until the last minute, the path we and the characters eventually realize is heading down. And the ultimate revelations of what those final twists are is so buck wild that I have to say that judging it on pure success of structure does it disservice. Basically, if you thought Oshii's previous story, being an extended Hemingway homage, came off as self-indulgent, just wait until you get a load of this episode. Wait, so is this written by the same person who did episode number like that one? What was that episode? Episode 5 or was it 4? The one with the where Lupin tries to recreate the story of Hemingway. That one, isn't it? And that's why it was so confusing. The thing is, by standards of an entrant genre episode, it's clear that this Lupin entry is written by an experienced old hand, regardless of the insane truths powering its various plot services. I was immediately questioning the true identity of the mysterious Mikhail, who contracted Fujiko, wondering about who his enigmatic lord could actually be. These are the seeds planted that becomes hilariously obvious with the ultimate reveal as the doors opened at the climax, and I realized at the same time Fujiko jaw-droppingly did. And the dude was Mikhail the angel, and his lord was the actual almighty lord. There you go. Like, this is the thing. I was also like I feel like I would have understood this and probably connected the dots way earlier if Lupin actually included supernatural elements in his stories before this. Lupin has never done this before. And I never really thought in this direction. I was trying to find logic in everything. And then when they revealed the thing, and in the end when Fujiko was like, "Oh, Mikhail, did I get the pronunciation correct?" That's when it clicked. I'm like, oh, so this is actually going in this direction. There's no logic here. This is completely supernatural. And that's when it clicked. Like, this is a rare occurrence that Lupin actually used supernatural elements in it. And that is why I feel like a lot of people would probably not guess it up until the end, even though it was so obvious. Like, Mikhail was dropping hints left and right. And even then we couldn't understand because Lupin never takes this direction. That is why. There was a preconceived notion that we already had that Lupin's never going to go in this direction. But then this episode came in. And that's why it took so long, even though Mikhail made it so obvious what's going on. It still took so long for us to understand and connect the dots. A lot of the antics of part 6 have felt relatively contained, even low-key compared to past recent Lupin offerings. So I suppose Oshii penning a story where Lupin and Fujiko get contracted to pull a heist for literally God is one way to overcorrect. That helps with an outrageous core concept click as the mysteries get solved. The effective thematic tie-in referenced in the dialogue exposited in the episode is an Oshi joint, so it's probably not surprising that nearly a full half of the episode is dedicated to characters sitting down and exhaustively discussing and detailing the premise. And the incoming rug pull amusingly contextualizes some of the more side-eye worthy elements like Mihail is laying down. Paleontologic conspiracy theories can form a compelling narrative if you're already amenable to being swayed by them. Wanting to believe that missing link evidence is like the famous London specimen Archaeopteryx was actually a forgery conceived to lend credence to Darwin's theory of evolution. Fujiko herself doesn't seem to pay too much mind to whether she believes Mihail's assertions or not, simply acknowledging some of the admittedly standout coincidences at the heart of the discovery and the sale of the fossil. But said suspicious angle of writing becomes hilarious with the hindsight that the actual Almighty was the one asserting this conspiracy theory that ancient burns aren't real. But the idea of a discovery like the Archaeopteryx fossil being a smokescreen for a much grander scheme is lovingly ridiculously turned on its head with the final revelation, that being the fantastical proposition that said fossil wasn't just a fake for the purpose of proving evolutionary theory, but a cover-up for a genuine discovery that proved the opposite creational concept. Yeah, exactly. The world of Lupin is one that's already been proven to be filled with time travel, ghosts, and whatever the hell was going on in Green vs. Red. So perhaps it's only fair that we buy that God is real here and evidence of evolution is a big ruse. And in the context of these themes of the overall franchise, it seems amusingly right that the Lord himself would be scheming to hire the world's greatest thieves as part of his own elaborate cover-up. With that in mind, maybe we shouldn't be as slack-jawed surprised as Fujiko when she was finally directed to uncover Satan's skeleton in the basement of British History Museum. Or did she? Amongst all the other ideas Oshi is grandiosely displaying in this episode, time loops of various sorts are apparently also being implemented. Okay, I quite dig the way the seed of the precedent is planted within our minds as we are watching. The effects of Fujiko's this part I didn't understand, kind of. Like, let me read this part. The effects of Fujiko's hacked security cam footage eventually bleeding out to affect the routines of the real guards operating and observing them. Okay, so that's what was going on. We're creatures who are beholden to what we observe, after all, and if we can be convinced of the truth of the evolutionary process by some petrified old bird bones, why couldn't some compromised cameras trick us into repeating the same 4 seconds over and over again? So with that in mind, what does it mean for the vision Fujiko herself apparently loops through the beginning to the end of the episode? Yeah, she does kind of loop. There was like a prophetic dream or something like that, it felt like. Is it a vision, or is it to come if she accepts the job granted by the all-powerful and a bid to convince her to do so? Or is it merely Fujiko herself running the possibilities in her head for the most escalated conclusion possible with regards to someone bold enough to actually try contacting her and Lupin? As is so often with these kinds of stories, the actual answer isn't really the point here. Rather, the takeaway I have with the core idea of this episode connects with the escalating conspiracy theories we follow Mihail on throughout it. Someone is working with some sort of angle in these sorts of setups, and if you can't see what the angle will finally be, it probably means that something far too big for you. That's the lesson that Fujiko must eventually conclude for herself as she runs the mental number represented by the hypothetical case in this episode. We can see Jigen nope out immediately from the promise, with Lupin seeing himself to withdraw later on, as he can't come to comfortable conclusions about the origins of the contract. In the moment, at least as Fujiko is possibly imagining it, Lupin lets her know that there's some time for her to pull out as well. It's a hell of a way to go, ultimately convincing yourself not to take too much of an unknown risk, but it also seems to work given the conclusion Fujiko delivers at the bookend here. There are some jobs, at least at the most extreme possibility, that would be too big even for the Lupin crew. It seems that like a long way to go for a simple thought experiment on the limitations of Lupin, but the love of the idea-based storytelling in me appreciates it for the ambition. And Oshi's meditative story style pulls the concept in a way that I didn't know anybody could in this case. There's a certain irony to this story, seeming to be about tempering your ambitions, accepting at least the most extreme limitations, where its concept and presentations are themselves reaching for literal heavens. It all but guarantees mixed reactions to what Oshi's putting down here, but I think it's a categorical good for such a wide-ranging franchise as this one to have an odd, diversive entity among its expected crowd-pleasing capers. I liked it, maybe you won't, but you have to admit, even if it all did was make you go, what the hell was that? You're definitely going to remember it for provoking that reaction. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, it kind of makes sense about that part. I was the most confused about the part of the security camera footage, but it kind of makes sense if you think of it like that, that it was literally kind of bleeding out, and it's so unusual that it shouldn't make sense. Like, that was literally this episode, you know. It's unusual, so unusual that there's a lot of things that we probably don't understand, but we can just think of them as like, oh, it's too big for us to understand. All of that was God's plan, you know. And obviously, since it was God's plan, there's a lot of things that wouldn't make sense, and I don't think it should make sense. And I think, you know, that's how we can convince ourselves, like, oh, this part didn't make sense, but it's okay. It was all part of the grand plan. Nobody understood what was going on. Neither did Fujiko, neither did Lupin, but that's how it is supposed to be. You know, like, you know, if we understood all of that, we would literally become, like, you know, on the same realm as gods. So it makes sense that it doesn't make sense. That's literally what this episode is about. And most of it made sense, but you know, it was a very interesting like, you know, story that it, like, you know, they kind of made the premise at the beginning, and then we go to the next part where exactly, like, you know, we saw what happened, and in the end that little revelation where everything connected. And the fact is that this was actually God trying to, as it was written in the article, God hiring Lupin and his crew to go in and get something that fell from the heavens. And you know, that was kept a top secret, like, you know, like it was like, you know, like a top secret thing. So nobody knew about that. Everyone, like, you know, all the people who were connected to this were probably hiding this from the public eye. But God wanted Lucifer back, you know, and like, you know, he literally fell from the heavens, and that is why Mikhail comes in with a job for the Lupin crew to get it. But in the end, Fujiko was like, you know what? No, this is too much even for me. So please hire someone else. And I don't think, like, Mikhail would probably be able to hire anyone to get it for him, because the almighty Lupin's crew actually, like, you know, like, gave this job up, which says that I don't think anyone ever will be able to get their hands on it unless and until God himself interferes. So yeah, and usually that's not how it goes, you know. Like, I like, you know, in my, like, you know, way of thinking, God himself, like, you know, would never interfere in anything related to the mortal realm. You know, that is why Mikhail was appointed to find someone out who would take the job. Like, Mikhail himself couldn't interfere in this. He needed Fujiko to go in and get it for them. So in no way God or, like, you know, like, his archangels or, like, you know, his angels will be able to interfere in something related to the mortal realm. And that is why this thing, now that Lupin's crew has conceded and has taken the hands of this job, this thing is probably going to stay there forever. Unless or until someone even more crazier than Lupin's crew comes in and they take in the job and they actually provide the fossil back to them. You know, unless or until that happens, it's going to stay there for a while, because I doubt God and Mikhail would interfere in this on their own. Like, I doubt I don't think they're allowed to do that or something like that. They, like, you know, as they say, you know, like, God always makes us do things. You know, like, God doesn't really interfere directly. He sends, like, you know, other people, or like, you know, makes them do things which is going to help us. That type of thing. You know, so yeah. So anyways, that was a really good episode. I just loved this episode. I think I loved this a lot more than the episode. What was that episode? 5 or was it 4? The one where they were in the diner, you know, where they were there sitting down, and, like, you know, that Lupin made, like, you know, kind of did the story, like, recreated the story of Hemingway. That one, you know. More than that, I like this one. You know, this actually, like, you know, tricked me, because, like, now that I think about it, Mikhail was dropping a lot of hints, which was very easy. I could have easily connected it, but the fact that Lupin never uses supernatural elements convinced me that there is some logic in it. So I didn't really think in that direction. But in the end, when Fujiko says Mikhail, I'm like, oh my god. So yeah, this is actually supernatural. It has nothing to do with logic. So there you go. So that is it. Thank you for watching, guys. This was my reaction to episode number 10 of Lupin the Third Part 6. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to press the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, or you haven't subscribed. Comment down below anything you want to say, anything you want to let me know. I'll check them out. That's it, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next week with another episode of Lupin the Third Part 6. Until then, goodbye and have a nice day.